Hi, it's Kylie Coo. Welcome to my studio and welcome to week 28 of creating a positivity deck. And our prompt for this week is play. So as I sat down this week with my card and with the prompt, my mind was drawn back to my younger self. The days when creating, be it drawing or painting or just making things, in many ways seemed simpler. There wasn't the range of supplies then, or if there was, I certainly didn't have them, but a lot of the supplies we see now just weren't around. And I therefore thought that today I would try and keep things simple in terms of the supplies that I had. And the first thing that came to mind was that back then I would often start with paper, glue and scissors. And I took that as my starting point for my card today. So not terribly different to what I do now, because I still will often start things off this way, but just doing that bit of kind of sticking down. My younger self might well have wanted to cut these pieces of paper into shapes and then glue them down. But my purpose today was to get a base down on the card just as a starting point. And I do spend a few minutes just doing this. I'm always amazed now when I look at these little bits of paper, things left over from other projects, just how little scraps have so much interest in them. And I think there's a kind of playfulness in that, in looking at things and seeing other possibilities. And I do recall that as a youngster as well, that I would look at things and things would change as they went along. And it was always the case then, I think, that what I perhaps imagined as being the finished piece, very often the actual finished piece turned out to be something different. And again, that's no different from today. So just looking at where I'm going to put all these pieces, I don't know why I spent so long on this bit. I knew that likely these would be covered up. But there's something, as I've said in previous videos, there's something just about taking time with it. Sometimes it's good, sometimes just to throw things down and just get on with it. But other times it is that kind of notion of mindfulness and just being in the moment and enjoying it for what it is. So try not to overthink it in some ways, but in other ways just kind of going with it. Some days I will spend more time on the basics like this, whereas other times, it's just kind of get this bit done and get past it. So I decided then I would just take this basic white paint and just put a layer of it over the top of the card. I just wanted to blend those individual pieces of collage together and just really give me something else to work on. I knew from the start that these pieces would likely be covered up, but maybe I would just see a little bit of them through the paint at some point. And as I was doing this, I was just thinking back to when I would make things and paint things when I was much younger, and thinking back to the annuals we used to get at Christmas. They would have colouring pages, they would have dot to dots, things to draw, so you'd get a picture and then you had to copy it. And again, just thinking about how simple it all seemed then. So I took this piece of tissue paper. I just wanted to kind of use that to mop things up because my usual rag wasn't there. And then I saw the pattern on this piece of kitchen towel, and I thought, I like that. And again, that kind of took me back to the kind of resourcefulness. And I guess to an extent I still display that now by doing my kind of junk, use it or lose it projects, a kind of trash to treasure. Very much a case of being resourceful and just using what we have. So I saw that and I liked the patterns in it. And again, that reminded me of my younger days and things, I guess, that I have still carried on. I was always fascinated by shape, by pattern, and by colours. You know, bright colours. But in those days too, you know, I knew nothing about the colour wheel, and I would just use colours that I felt attracted to. And again, still, you know, while I understand theory about colour and colour mixing, I still just try and use colours that I feel drawn to. And if I create mud on the page, I create mud. You know, at the end of the day, I can just go over it. So today was very much just about play, just playing with a few basic materials and just seeing where that took me. So I've stuck down my piece of paper towel. I had separated it from the backing, and I'm just using some water now to go around it, just to make it that little bit easier to tear it out. Now, unusually for my positivity deck video, I am putting this next bit on double speed because I was working very slowly. I think this next section took me around 20 to 25 minutes, and mainly that's just colouring in some of these circles, trying to stay in the lines, but recognising that I will probably go over them, and if I do, that's perfectly fine. Again, I think that was taking me back to art and craft as a child, where we would often try very hard to stay in the lines, and often didn't, and that's perfectly okay. In fact, I would encourage you, if you're playing, to go out of the lines if you feel so inclined to do. And I'm just using bright neon colours here. And again, not worrying whether the colours go together, I'm just thinking about putting them down. The paper that I was working on top of, it was actually quite difficult to paint on this. You know, the brush was kind of dragging along because it was a very textured surface, and I guess that was partly why I was also going quite slowly. But I think as this card developed, I could see that much of my younger self has in so many ways come forward to now. Because as I got further into the card, I could see other things in this card. And that's still the case now. You know, I'll look at something, it could be a blob of paint or whatever, and often see other things in it. And I think that's very much about just imagination. And, you know, it's something that as children we generally have a lot of. And I think it's good to keep that. Especially when we're being creative. So while this started off as simply being about me filling in some of those circles, I started to see a universe. I could see planets, I could see stars. But I didn't want to try and make it something realistic. I wanted to keep it very much with these bright colours and just see where it took me. It was simply about play. I wasn't trying to create anything. I wasn't saying I'm creating a universe. It was just about play. And if it had turned out as something completely different, that would have been absolutely fine as well. So I know that some of you, when you're watching these videos, you're actually playing along, and that thrills me. So I'm going to put a bit of music on now, and if you want to just play along, then please do so. And as always, I'll come back in at the end. So, are those stars? Is it a galaxy far away? Is it the universe? It doesn't matter. My card today was just about play. It was about playing, it was about being playful, it was about remembering a time when, it was art for art's sake. It was just about colouring in, about drawing, about painting. It was fun. There was no rules. Yes, there was a feeling of wanting to stay in the lines at times, but also knowing that it's okay to go out of the lines. So I hope that if you're making a card, you will take the word play and just use that in whatever way it means for you. You don't need to think back to your younger self unless you want to. Just try and let yourself go and just play. I felt totally absorbed in doing this. As I say, it took me a while, and I loved the fact that I'd used the bright colours. They just spoke to me. So as always, I thank you very much for watching and for listening to me. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video and hope you will join me again next time. Bye for now.